Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video, and in today's video I wanted to cover a few different topics to talk about some important bits of information that you may have missed from the original gameplay reveal event, the recent interviews, Bungie weekly update, and also a couple of leaks from reliable sources. Think of it like a bit of a news roundup. So here are 7 things you might not know or might have missed about Destiny 2. If you do enjoy the video, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions, and also be sure to share your thoughts on the topics as well. Now, kicking things off with number 1, this actually came from this week's Bungie blog post, and that's some additional information on how networking will work in Destiny 2. That topic has been pretty hot lately, especially since we discovered that Destiny 2 wouldn't be using dedicated servers, but would instead be relying on P2P or a peer-to-peer model, much to the community's dismay. However, it's important to remember that Destiny 2 is a brand new game, and while Destiny 1 did indeed use peer-to-peer, which often resulted in less than ideal matchmaking conditions, that doesn't mean to say that Destiny 2 is doomed to suffer the same fate. On the contrary, Destiny 2's peer-to-peer model is actually a little different, and while we obviously won't know how reliable it'll be until the masses get a chance to hammer it during the beta, here is what Bungie had to say about the way in which they'll be handling things this time round. Matt Seeger, engineering lead on Destiny, said, quote-unquote, "We've seen a lot of people asking about how the networking model works for Destiny 2. Many are concerned by our announcement last week that Destiny 2 doesn't have dedicated servers. While that's useful shorthand, the full answer is more complex because Destiny has a unique networking model. Rest assured that we're doing a lot of testing right now with players all around the world and working hard to make sure that your experience is going to be smooth on launch day." And then moving on from there, in answer to the question of why no dedicated servers, he said, "Every activity in Destiny 2 is hosted by one of our servers. That means you will never again suffer a host migration during your raid attempt or your trials match. This differs from Destiny 1, where these hosting duties were performed by player consoles and only script and mission logic ran in the data center. To understand the foundation on which we're building, check out this Destiny 1 presentation from GDC, which they linked in the blog post. Using the terms from that talk, in Destiny 2, both the mission host and physics host will run in their data centers. So already it's a slightly different model to Destiny 1. The next follow-up question was then, in that case, why peer-to-peer? Are we trying to save money? And the answer to that was no, they have instead invested heavily in new server infrastructure for Destiny 2, including using cloud servers for gameplay for the first time. They really believe that this is the best model for all of Destiny 2's varied cooperative and competitive experiences. Engineering will always involve trade-offs and cost-benefit analysis, but as a team, we've got no regrets about the unique technology we've built for Destiny 2. They also then went on to say that they've been hard at work ensuring that their cheat detection and prevention is on point for Destiny 2 on PC, since that's a platform that is often rife with cheaters and hackers. The technology they're using is top secret, but they're confident they'll be able to keep things locked down. And finally, while they said it is virtually impossible to completely eliminate lag, they are again confident that their choice of networking solution should serve players well, but ultimately they'll wait until the beta to see how it truly holds up. So in summary, yes, Destiny 2 uses a peer-to-peer networking model, but it is not the same as Destiny 1, so here's hoping it's good. Next up, moving on to number 2, a mysterious new currency in Destiny that goes by the name of Strange Dust. Now at this stage, much like a lot of the mysteries surrounding the Destiny universe, we don't know a great deal about this, but hovering over it in the menu reveals the following: remnants of powerful items used to improve or trade for other items. Now, the fact that it is described as a remnant from powerful items, could this perhaps be a currency of sorts we obtain from dismantling items, similar to how we dismantle legendary gear and get legendary marks? Destiny 1 is a game that had no shortage of varying currencies. It was borderline ridiculous how many there were near the end, to be completely honest. So whether this new system will attempt to streamline this will of course remain to be seen. It is however worth mentioning that the word trading in the item's description more than likely speaks solely of trading between players and NPCs. Based on discussions from Bungie developers in the past, I don't think we will ever expect to see any sort of player-to-player trading. As cool as it may be, I mean, as an ex-WoW player, the auction house was an incredible feature, but player trading does come with its own problems, most notably people then selling items outside of the game. So for the time being, let's assume this currency is similar in use to legendary marks, strange coins, or any other sort of exchange-based currency we've come to know. It is however also worth noting though that this scene of the character screen from the Destiny 2 trailer shows a different icon to this one. Is this currency perhaps class specific? Does the currency displayed here rotate? Or perhaps it's an icon that's changed during development? Anyway, moving on from there to number 3, more on returning subclasses. As it currently exists, based on the information that has been officially communicated to us, we know that each of the classes will have something relatively new to play with in the form of Sentinel, Dawnblade and Arcstrider subclasses, Plus, we also have the returning Gunslinger, Striker, and Voidwalker subclasses, although Voidwalker is the one that we've seen the least of. The main glaring omissions, however, are Nightstalker, Sunbreaker, and Stormcaller. Will they be returning? I mean, we saw Aurora use a quick burst of arc lightning in the original Destiny 2 reveal trailer, but that doesn't exactly serve as concrete evidence when we know that, for example, Zavala is still rocking the OG bubble, which is more than likely a thing of the past for the new Titans, who are instead going to be picking up a Captain America's shield. However, interestingly, there was a leak that cropped up on Reddit the day of the gameplay reveal, just a few hours before the gameplay was shown to the world for the first time, and this leak shared quite a bit of information about the game. The post has since been removed, but there's a web cache version which I've linked down below if you guys want to read it. I'm not going to recite the entire post, but the reason I'm choosing to comment on it is because that everything listed in the post, bar a couple of things that haven't been spoken about yet, actually ended up being true. The post spoke about the changes to kinetic energy and power-based weapons, the fact that snipers, shotguns and fusion rifles belong in the power slot. It mentions the new PvP mode that was like elimination, and that Crucible will be 4v4 across the board. The list goes on, but for the most part, everything that's been spoken about or shown in the reveal matches up with this post. So assuming for a second that the post is legit, then there was a section that spoke about returning subclasses. It reads, quote unquote, Golden Gun, Voidwalker, Striker, Nightstalker, Stormcaller and Sunbreaker will all return, though they will see massive changes. Blade Dancer is being replaced by a class that uses an arc bowstaff, Sunsinger is being replaced by a class that uses a solar sword, and Defender is being replaced by Void Captain America. Again, the last part we know to be true, so if this post is indeed accurate, given that we know that the other subclasses have seen some significant changes, then we can expect the new kids on the block to be the aforementioned subclass changes. Meanwhile, the TTK additions, Nightstalker, Stormcaller and Sunbreaker, will likely see modifications like Gunslinger and Striker did. In truth, I think this makes the most sense. I mean, for existing players, it might be a bit odd to go from 3 subclass choices down to 2, even if one of them is new, but again, only time will tell. Moving on from there to number 4, and this is somewhat related since it also draws from that very same leaked post that seems somewhat credible. But this one talks about Trials of Osiris, or the lack thereof, to be precise. This was the very last line of the post, and it said, quote unquote, P.S. Trials of Osiris is gone, it's now called Trials of the Nine. And I'm going to assume that this more than likely has something to do with the fact that all Crucible game types will now be 4v4, and while I'm sure they could have just changed Trials of Osiris to 4v4, perhaps narratively speaking, Trials will always be known as the 3v3 mode, and hence they introduced a new, similar mode that serves the same purpose but matches the new format. Also, I've always personally wanted to know more about the 9, so if there's any sort of associated lore that we can glean from this whilst playing, I am all for it. However, to lean on something a little bit more credible than this leaked post alone, there was an IGN interview with Luke Smith where he spoke about the mode and said, quote unquote, I can't imagine shipping Destiny 2 and not having a Trials-like experience there very soon. Emphasis on Trials-like and also very soon, implying that it might not be there at launch, but more than likely very soon after. Sort of how raids come out a week or two post-launch to give people a chance to gear up, get the gear, complete the missions, do everything they need to do, and then they're ready for the activity. Furthermore, Mark Noseworthy said that the mode can be expected in the launch window and also, quote-unquote, way before the Osiris-themed expansion. Again, more than likely implying the two are no longer intrinsically linked. He also then went on to say, we've got some cool stuff planned for Trials that we're going to unveil later this year, so we don't want to give away too much. It's also important to note that anytime a Bungie developer refers to the mode, they call it Trials, and not Trials of Osiris. And while it's entirely possible that this could just be because it's easier to say Trials and it's quicker, it could also be because they haven't officially communicated the name yet. Either way, for the PvP players out there, know that there will still be a Trials-like experience for you to sink your teeth into very soon after launch. Now jumping over from there to number 5, in truth, this one is a bit of a stretch, but people have been talking about it recently, so I want to share it with you guys anyway in the interest of keeping you up to date. There is a wild theory going around right now that the beta may be dropping on July the 17th, and the reason people have come to this conclusion is that in all the hands-on gameplay, Guardians had absolutely zero currency in their inventory. But in the gameplay reveal, in the inventory screen we looked at earlier when talking about the strange dust, there is a very precise amount of currency, 17,17,7. If you reverse it, this gives us 7,17,17, or July 17th, 2017. Now in truth, I think this is personally a bit of a stretch. I mean, we know that Bungie like the number 7, so it could have just been a funny amount of currency, but true or not, I don't think it's going to be far off either way. I personally made a guess a while back that we'd expect to see the beta somewhere around the 11th of July, partly because it's a Tuesday, but also partly because it's early enough so that PlayStation players can then have their early access window, and then there's still plenty of time for the other platforms to join the fray that month. I am, however, almost certain that it will be July, since we've had the gameplay reveal in May, Then E3 is in June, which will see yet more gameplay shown. July is then a gap, and there'll then be Gamescom in August, which I'd imagine will have even more gameplay, and launch is then September. So July being the only blank month where there's no gameplay makes the most sense. The 17th also being a Monday is a bit of an odd date, but either way, 11th, 17th or other, I imagine July is when we can all expect to go hands-on with the game. Now, moving away from rumour and now speaking about something more concrete and factually accurate, in at number 6, I want to speak a little bit more about adventures. An Xbox interview with Steve Cotton actually went into a little more detail. Steve himself spoke about how cool these new adventures are, and that he actually feels like he undersold them when he spoke about them on stage. Adventures, for those of you guys that missed the reveal, or perhaps only heard about them in passing, are actually much more in depth than we thought. They are 10 to 15 minute long missions that you'll actually get from characters you meet in the world, much like this chap we see in this bell tower here, with what looks like a Christmas wrapped No Land Beyond. Here's an example of one such NPC who would send you on an adventure. What's more, the missions will introduce you to some new mechanics. They'll also see you experience different types of encounters. You may have to do things such as building Vex structures high into the sky or delving deep into dark caverns. Basically, they'll see you exploring the world. So gone are the days, at least I hope, of going to a location, pulling out your ghost and defending it for 5 minutes while it does something we don't understand. Adventures are also things that will be marked on our map, so knowing that we can go around looking for these, taking part in these, and that they exist outside the realms of the main story missions is super exciting. However, somewhat linked to these is number 7, and this is quite honestly one of the things I am most looking forward to in Destiny 2, and that is Lost Sectors. From the very same Xbox interview with Steve Cotton, he also delved a little bit deeper into this new activity. Lost Sectors, for want of a better comparison, are like dungeons. You will venture down into them, and you'll find a boss, defeat him, and steal his treasure. The interesting thing about these, however, is that they won't initially be marked on your map. Lost Sectors, it's sort of in the name, need to be found. You'll first have to find the entrance, work out how to get in, and then work your way through them and learn how to deal with the boss. So you could liken them to miniature raids or strikes, if you will. Perhaps not the same complexity or difficulty of a raid, but similar in the associated mystery. Having to uncover them and work things out for yourself with your team, that is going to be incredibly awesome. Plus, during the gameplay reveal, they actually said that the boss drops a key as opposed to conventional loot. So I'm going to hazard a guess that the Lost Sectors likely go hand in hand with the new treasures that they spoke about as well. It's probably going to be something like find Lost Sector, defeat the boss, get the key, then find the treasure, and then end up getting something like an exotic. Who knows? But either way, that is pretty much it for the time being. Those were 7 things that you might have missed, or at least not got all the information on, from the recent Destiny 2 news, reveals, interviews, leaks, etc. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below and let me know what you guys think of all this. And thanks for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.